Okay, so this is a video on how do we create a furniture piece or some other piece, generic models, or something that is a little bit different than usual in Rhino, and we take it back to Revit. So we bring the models from Revit into Rhino, we create the thing, and then we take it back to Revit so it fits exactly with the same coordinates. So I'm going to create a very fast a new kind of a base for a model. Okay, so I'm going to create a floor here. Select any floor for now, rectangle shape. Say okay, level 2, another floor, pick lines, tab. Okay, I'm gonna go to the elevation, drag this to 15 feet, and copy that floor above, level 3 at 30, and go to level 3. Which you can get from manage. So view, plan views. This is because I copy actually the level. So notice that this is a black level and this is a blue level. We need to make sure that's also blue if we want to have that level included in the project browser here. That means that we need to go under view, plan view, floor plan, select level 3, and then there it goes, it appears there. Okay, so now I'm gonna do another floor. I can say under the underlay, I want to see level 2, so it appears, and then I say floor, pick, tab, select, okay. So I have 3 floors there. I'm going to go to level 2 and create an opening to that. So I'm just going to say edit boundary and do another rectangle. That's a double height space. Okay, so imagine these are the elements. You could always just create some walls or whatever thing you need to have. And okay, I'm going to also do a really fast stair. Create an underlay, level 2, so I can see the floor above. There's the one. I want to see that. I wanted to make sure, look up. There you go. I wanted to see under using that underlay the level 2, so I can create a very fast stair with probably this option, the straight stair, and I'm going to do just a simple stair coming up here from level 1 to level 2. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to start another one here. Say you can literally just move these ones against that space, moving the stair against that point, and moving those two for the entire stair, move against this point. So it's exactly in the corner. I'm gonna say okay, goes up. I'm gonna move also this one just to create a project as it might look in reality. I'm gonna do a line and stretch this guy to this point. Just do again. Imagine your project something like this. You can always edit stair. Select and move this is precisely that point. There you go. Okay, so imagine your project is a little bit like this, and you want to do something in that center space. So the question, I mean, you might have many other things, but the proper way to go is to select the things that you need to select and take with you. So imagine I select my stairs, my railings, my walls, the ones that are exactly related to the space. I'm going to create my object. I'm going to do isolate element. So I just need a file with only the elements I need. I'm going to do file export as DWG. Here's a couple of things we need to change under the 3 points. We need this as solids, it's SCSAs, solids, and then units. We need to make sure it's under foot. Okay, we say next, we save it. Call it a base project for generic model, whatever you want to call it. You make sure it's DWG, you say okay. This doesn't really matter. And you go back to Rhino and then you open directly that DWG, which you can do very easily just directly from Rhino. Okay. You just need to make sure maybe the model is maybe not just feed and feed units. And then you say okay. One thing you want to do is to make sure that the units are the same. So for example, you can go to the top view, go to your drafting options and give a couple of dimensions. This is 48. You might need to change here the annotation styles and just edit the one here that you're using, the standard, and go to dimensions, text, the length units. Should be feet and inches. That's what you want to work with. See, okay, there you go, 48 feet. This is that dimension. You just to triple check, so you can always go to level 1, go to annotate, and use just the same 2 lines and make sure that number is exactly the same. So now we know it is the same, so we can work on Rhino with this model and do something here. Now you can use all the tools that we've been using, the sweep and the sweep to rail or lofts, etc., etc. I'm just going to do whatever thing right now, just to give you an example more, not what can you do with Rhino, which we already have seen, is how you take that thing into Revit. So I'm going to just go to the top view. I'm going to do a circle and something relatively simple. Go to the 3D, press Alt, start copying this thing. Good thing about having your floor plans is that you can just literally use those as constraints. You should be using also your layers to make sure you're saving things. You can call it whatever it is, new, right click, change object layer. You can give it a color so it's really different than the rest. Let's say magenta. And I'm just going to do a stretch in here, something. Fun. Okay. I'm going to do loft, change those curves. 2, 3, 4. Remember, loft is selecting one after the other one. You have the lines that allow you to see this, and let's see how that looks. Doesn't interfere with the stair. That's the good thing about having the stair and everything. You can see what's going on in relation to the walls and everything. Okay, so let's say I like that. I'm going to delete it now. What I'm going to do is do an offset of those curves. Offset. And then I'm going to use like a distance of 0.5 of each of those to the interior. Okay, so now I can do a loft. of the exterior, and then another loft of the interior curves. Okay. Good. I have basically two curves, one inside of another one. I'm gonna hide this so we can see them. And theoretically, we should be able to cut these guys because they're cut only the top, so that wouldn't work. So how we could do this, so we can hide, and hide, create this and do cap. Planar surface, create that element there. And planar surface. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is say new surfaces here. I'm going to take that little surface that I created, this little surface, put them there, change object layer. I'm going to make them a little like also magenta color. And I'm going to show and select both the exterior and the interior and place them in that new layer. Okay, so I can delete everything else, not delete, sorry, hide. And work on that layer, turn off that. So basically I have this element. I can join those. I can make sure that this is actually a close solid poly surface. If it is not, that's okay. I might be giving you something else. This is a good thing to have. Basically, it's a close poly surface that we can take into Rhino. Imagine you have this sculptural element in front, or it could be a ceiling element, whatever it is that you need. That's good. You could also have some contour elements of that surface in this direction. You can give it a, see if that's too many. It's probably good. Why not? I'll place it in another layer, contour, right click, change object layer. I'm going to do an extrude, go to the front view, solid both sides, no. I can turn off surface. There you go. So I have all these ribs that could be also part of what I'm looking for. It could be either option or both or anything actually. So you can keep both as well. Right now I think I have both curves. Let me select all of the curves, create curves, contour, right click, change object layers, turn it off, and this could be the ribs. Right click, change object layer. That could be a wooden tone, for example. Okay. So I'm going to save that because we need to save it. It's important. And let's see how we can start taking several things or everything. So I'm going to take the ribs as one project, imagine. Export selected. As you know, SAT. So I'm going to call this ribs. I'm also going to take the new surface. And this surface new SAT. Imagine you had other elements, you can take them together separately, however you prefer. So now we go back to Revit. And what we need is to well, there are a couple ways to do this, but basically what I'm thinking is we can do a model in place directly. So model in place on a component. I'm going to use the generic model because it's not clear where it is. If in this case, very important that if you're doing a furniture, that would be a furniture element. If you're doing a ceiling, that would be a ceiling element. In this case, it's a little bit unclear. It's like a sculptural generic thing to a generic model. I'll call it first, for example, ribs in space, for example. Everything's going to go toned down. And I'm not going to create the things. I couldn't do that kind of loft thing. It would be very difficult. That's why I use this as an example. I'm going to do an insert, import cat, and we need to select the SAT, ribs, open. There it is. Okay, so it's one element. I could finish this model already. We have the issue of the materials, which we'll talk about right after. You could also insert another piece, but it's probably better if you do one by one, for example. So I'm just going to say finish model. And there we have this thing. And here's how we actually assign material in a very simple way. There are other ways, but in this case, what we can do to assign material to this particular generic model is to go to manage object styles and go to generic models. And here you can assign a material. In my case, what I'm going to do is a new material with a wood, for example. So new, right click, rename, wood ribs. I'm going to open the asset browser, and then I'm going to search for woods, or you can create your own. Double click, comes in slowly. There it is. Say okay. There's your wood ribs. Say okay. And if we take a look at how this looks, you should have your wood assigned to that generic model. Okay. Good. Again, we could have done the other one, so we could have, or mix both actually, but I'm just going to do a component model in place. I'm going to say generic model. I'm going to call this new surface, and I'm going to do insert cat. So new should come out at the same place if you haven't moved any in Rhino. Say okay, and again, what we're going to do is under manage. Maybe you want to change this to a different thing, not wood ribs anymore. And if you have two at the same time, you just have to select a different category. So you could send it into a type of other generic or component, or into a wall component. This could be, or anything else. So in this case, I'm going to do another new one. I'll do rename last surface new. Open the asset browser. Choose a cool glass. Bronze, double click, comes in. Okay. Okay. There you go. So that's your sculpture of the day. Again, in our case, we're doing a furniture, but I don't mind if some of you might want to do something a bit more on furniture and something a bit more crazy. That's fine. Then you can create your cameras and it should appear with no problem. Within your design and within your prop, with your render it, and it will have the glass, and etc. So in that case, you could keep on editing in Rhino a bit more, do your things and be more as specific as you want. It becomes a little more tricky when you have several components coming from Rhino, but that's how you really need to start assigning different materials to different categories that come from Rhino. Okay, so that's the thing.